Kalim, no problem. Kalim are the vessels, okay? When we're talking about how Hashem is creating reality, gesundheit. We're talking about the vessels. The vessels contain the light, okay? And we're very in a very abstract place here. So I'm going to get down to the practicalities. I didn't really get to finish this point last week, and I want to make this point. It explains in the Kabbalah that when Hashem creates the vessels, and what are we talking about the vessels? The vessels of Atzilus. And what are the vessels of Atzilus? The vessels of Atzilus are expressions of Hashem's energy necessary in order to create this world. If Hashem didn't have the vessels and the light in Atzilus, taking this extreme light of Atzilus and bringing it down into this intermediary place, staging area or whatever, like a way of transmitting himself, this happens in the world of Atzilus, okay? Atzilus is between the source and us. There has to be some way of having a connection. You have to have some connection between something that's infinite and something that's finite. And the way Hashem did this is by creating the world of Atzilus, okay? The world of Atzilus has light and it has vessels. And the vessels themselves are also Hashem, okay? So you have the light that's Hashem and you have the vessel that's Hashem. And okay, so just stick with me there. And he says, and this is what, this by way of example explains why the illumination is termed Ein Sof, or Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof, rather than light without a beginning. For indeed it has a beginning, this light has a beginning, namely the Ma'or, who can freely choose to illuminate or not illuminate. So we're saying Hashem's choosing the Ma'or to illuminate this light. And he says, and this is what it says, Havaya, Elohim Emes, that the Lord, Hashem, Havaya, the energy of Havaya, which is the light, and Elohim, which is the vessels, is all true. Meaning that he alone is truth, and nothing else is true as he is. For absolute truth is that which exists independent of everyone and everything else, a condition which can be ascribed only to Hashem. So this is what we're talking. We're talking what does existence mean? We're saying existence means that it comes from Hashem, because Hashem is the only true existence. Because his existence derives from his very own essence and being. And in contrast, all that which issues from him exists only by his choice and his will. Hashem allows things to exist other than him, so to speak, because he chose to make that happen. So everything, again, everything is Hashem. And the fact that evil exists is because he chose to allow it to exist. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. And the same is true with regard to light. It exists only because the luminary, the Ma'or, desires it to exist. And if then even the light does not possess essential and absolute existence, how is it possible for the vessels which merely unite with the light to possess essential and absolute existence? And he said, the explanation is as follows. One of the main characteristics of light is that it cleaves to its source, whom it resembles. And therefore, when the luminary desires that the light should possess essential and absolute existence, then it possesses absolute and utter existence. Because Hashem said, I want the light to possess absolute existence, so it possesses absolute existence. Okay? I'm getting somewhere, don't worry. I just want to read the text because it's important to say the words. Okay. When the light later unites with the vessels, and the vessels nullify themselves to it, they too, through the intermediacy of the light, will attain essential and absolute existence. That's a very important point. When the vessel is what contains the light. And starting in the world of Atzilus, there's vessels. You have the vessel that holds Chachma, and the vessel that holds Bina, and the vessel that holds Das and Chesed and Gevurah. All of these things are the light, this light that we're talking about that's coming off the source. It enters into a vessel, which has a characteristic to it. Chesed has a certain characteristic to it. That's what kindness and giving and going out, that is an energy that when it's connected with the light, the source of it, it takes on that characteristic. If it didn't have the vessel, then the light would just have no characteristic. It would just be a reflection of Atmos. Do you see what I'm saying? Nothing could exist because it would only be the light of Atmos. So in order for Atmos to be able to take on different characteristics, in order to be able to create reality, it has to go through vessels. And what his point is here is that the light has existence because the source says it has existence. And the vessels have existence because Hashem wants them to have existence. But the only way that the vessel actually has lasting existence is if it becomes batal to the light. If the vessel does not say, I exist because Hashem is creating me, then the vessel does not possess independent and actual existence. And that's really, this is the crux of the thing here. And this is what he says. Okay, we didn't get to the crux yet, but now I'm going to talk about, so just let's hold this out here. A vessel has, in order for it to have absolute existence forever and be a reflection of Hashem's source of everything, it must be bittul to the source, okay? Yes, the vessel has the chira. Well, down here. No, we're not talking about anything with the chira. Let's not throw that in right now. We're talking about because, yeah, I guess when we come down to us, because right now we're talking about the vessels in Atzilus. They don't have the chira. They're just a reflection of Hashem. What? What's an example of that kind of vessel? What are those vessels? The vessels of Atzilus? Yeah. That's chesed, gevura, tiferes. That's how Yehudis Hoffman. I'm talking about spiritual vessels. But when we come down here and we become a vessel, and that's why the very first class that I was talking to you about, how the light and the letters come down. Remember, I was talking about the letters of creation. They are each vessels. Every single letter is a vessel of Hashem's light. So when those vessels come down through this whole process of creation and come down into a physical world, the vessels, we are a vessel. We are a vessel because we're a created entity. Remember we talked. You said these are spiritual vessels. You said that they will as how to make the mentality. No, because maybe because it's just they're acknowledging. They have to acknowledge their source. Like, no, I guess the issue of vessels, this happens to be one area where the creation of the vessels of Atzilus is something that I must investigate further. And Atzilus is what? Atzilus is the highest world that Hashem used to create reality. Okay, so let's just hold on one second for a second here about this idea about the vessels, because the vessels hold the light, okay, at every level. But as you go down through creation, the amount of light and the ability for the light to show its source becomes less. So as you go through worlds, the amount of light becomes less, the amount of vessel becomes more. And the vessel represents the ability to be separate. So up in Atzilus, there is no separation. It's all Hashem. But as the vessel comes down into this world, the amount of godliness becomes more and more constricted and concealed to the point that a vessel can exist in this world with no knowledge of its source. And that's what I'm talking about. When the vessel down here can say, I am existing because I reflect my source.
You're talking about a human being now or some spiritual?
A human being. When we can reflect our source, then we attain essential identity. Why? If the vessel is equal to the light, then there's no vessel. Because basically that is important. But this is the trick of the vessels. Hashem created them to retain separateness. Even if they're bittul. Yeah, even if they're bittul. Bittul is what? Well, bittul means they have no self. No self. Like the vessels. This is why it's confused. Like the vessels of Atzilus. This is where it's very. I have to get a better grip on the vessels of Atzilus. Just being honest. But the point here is a vessel is able to contain the light in Atzilus, and it has this dual function of being able to express something separate, but reflect the light. This is like it's actually very interesting. I was learning something else in the Tanya. It says the spheros of Atzilus are the secrets of faith. It says in the I think in the Zohar, it says Raza de Hemnusa. We don't understand the vessel of Atzilus. It's not something the human mind can understand because it's above intellect and it's in the realm of faith. And so that's why I've spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. I'm not an expert on this, but the point that I do know and I can explain is in this world, the vessels which are holding the light eclipse the light, such that so that a person in this world can go around thinking that Hashem doesn't exist. And they can say, I do whatever I want and I have my own life, nobody's gonna tell me what to do, and I exist essentially, and I exist. Okay, fine. And you can go through your whole life that way and not know that there's a source that's actually giving you energy. However, when that vessel acknowledges and accepts that its source is Hashem, it becomes it lives forever, basically, because it's now reflecting eternality. You know what I'm saying? So it's just in your own consciousness, we have the ability to flip a switch and go from essential existence or non-essential existence to essential existence, just because our own.
What do you mean it lives forever? Like, obviously we're talking about the physical body. Neshama anyway is forever, whether
The physical body actually comes back and lives forever. Yes. The physical body comes back and lives forever. It has essential existence. A body of a Jew has essential existence. And that's the thing, the body of a tzaddik never decomposes. It has essential existence. It lives forever. Why? Because there's no occlusion of its source. It is completely aligned with its source. And therefore, because the vessel is totally in acknowledgement of its source, it lives forever. Because the source is essential. So that's what the whole point that I'm trying to make here about what is klipa, as opposed to essential existence like a tzaddik.
Why does the tzaddik die then?
I was thinking that too.
The tzaddik dies because we live in a physical reality. But his body
is that the body doesn't compose, so you can
Adam has to die.
People who die. Okay, but it's also sometimes the body is decomposed, but those who don't, so we're also already in conflict here.
We're not in conflict at all, because the fact of the matter is Hashem is everything in every moment, period. As a human being, we live in different states of klipa. We live in different states of consciousness where we are not aligned with that truth. We were created that way on purpose because our essential existence is to try to open our eyes and our entire experience of reality to get to the point where we can live as a human in a body with a godly soul and reflect that truth that everything is God into the physical reality. And that's what a tzaddik does. A tzaddik is completely aligned with the oneness of Hashem, and that's why his body doesn't decompose, because there's no klipa. It's an essential existence. That's what I'm saying. It's an essential existence. If you have klipa, it is a lie. Klipa is a lie. Because it's saying, I exist. And the truth is, no, you don't exist. Hashem exists. And it's your consciousness that thinks that it's you that exists. You see what I'm saying?
So what's that about the tzaddik in that sense? Like his body doesn't decompose, and his neshama is eternal. So like, what's that about it? You know what I mean?
You know what? I just learned something very, very interesting. The word I was learning Torah Or on Parshas Vayera today, and it says a tzaddik nistalek. What does nistalek mean? It actually means it becomes revealed. That's what nistalek means. It means it becomes revealed, and we do not have the kingdom to see it. Hashem's, their soul leaves their body, but they didn't die. There's no death. It's just that the soul nistalek. It came to a higher level of consciousness that the body cannot contain because it lives in. Yes, so that they're alive in their death because they didn't go anywhere. In fact, they're more powerful in their death just because they're not constricted to the physicality that Hashem created, which is the king of the body.
Is that true for everybody, even an average person?
So this is the thing. The whole purpose of we're talking specifically about the decay. I mean, yes, because they get this whole thing, they get it. Like a normal person, if their consciousness is not completely on that level of a tzaddik, then they have to go out of this world and have a rectification for the fact that they weren't aligned with this truth in this lifetime. That's the way we were created. Anyway, the point of all this, and this is really something fascinating here. So there's two more major points that I want to bring up here. Now this one, so he says, and this is also implied by the phrase, which we say in davening, Hu Kayam, Ushmo Kayam, V'chiso Nachon. Okay, which means he exists, and his name exists, and his throne, it says endures. His name endures, his throne endures, and he is firmly established. The throne is firmly established. And he says, he who refers to the essence, Atzmos. Hashem's Atzmos endures. And he says, the essence of the Ein Sof light, whose existence derives from his very own essence and being. Like, he exists because he is everything. And that's what we were saying before. Like, he creates, it's his reality. What we said before, the exact question that we said, that he exists essentially and absolutely. And this idea can be ascribed only to God himself, whose existence derives from his very own essence and being. So that's who Kayam. And then we have Ushmo Kayam. And he says, the luminary desires the existence of the light. Remember we said that the light comes off the luminary because the luminary wants the light to come off. Hashem wants to have a relationship with this world. So he's like, I better get the light going so that I can now have a relationship with this world. So therefore, that is called Shmo, his name. Because his name, therefore, also endures eternal and absolute existence. But his name is not him. Our name is not us. We have an essential being, and our name is how we're called, but it's not our essential being. So what we're saying here is Hu Kayam, he exists forever, and his name exists because Hashem gave the name the ability to exist. That's why it exists, that's the light. But then he says, the Chiso Nachon, and his throne, Nachon, is firmly established. Hold on a second, where are we? Okay, wait, so he says his name, this speaks revelation, and it refers to the diffusion of the light. For the diffused light also has essential and absolute existence, like we said. And he says that it's God's will that the light unite with the vessels. Okay, it's God's will. That's his choice. And the vessels of Tikkun, meaning the vessels and attributes of the world of the Tzilas that we were talking about, are nullified to the divine radiance that shines within them. Thus, too, they attain a state of essential and absolute existence. Okay, that's why the vessels attain the state of absolute existence up in the world of Tzilas, because Hashem said so. Because they are bittul to Hashem. That's the whole thing. In the world of the Tzilas, that was how you guys asked that question. How could it be that the vessels are bittul? Because they're in the world of the Tzilas, and that's how Hashem made them. He says, nevertheless,
when it's not that they're bittul, they can't not to be bittul.
Right, because it's a Tzilas.
Yeah. Dependent on the Hashem.
100%. Yes.
It's just an odd way of saying it. It makes you think that.
Well, because the idea of vessel is that it is hiding something. It's hiding something.
There's something contained.
Yes, there's something contained in it, and the vessel itself has doesn't have Metzias because it's all connected to Hashem in the world of Metzias, but it has a characteristic. It makes other. It creates the illusion of other. That's why there's a big thing in the Zohar that says Hashem is one with his attributes. Because you could say, oh, well, now there's this thing called Chesed, or there's this thing called Gevurah, but it's unified with Hashem. And so it's this point that Hashem is one with his vessels. I'm saying it's a complicated thing. It's not very clear. What? That's what we're going to talk about right now. Nevertheless, with regard to the vessel, the phrase used is his throne. Vessels is connected to his throne, indicating a lesser degree of permanence and independence than endures. It doesn't say, and his throne endures. It says his throne is firmly established. So that means it's different. It has a different, it's less. It's less than a reflection of Hashem's light. Remember Hashem's light, it's just is Hashem. It's just but the vessels have a different quality to them.
It's more limited to me.
It has a limitation because it's hiding something.
So the first A is Kayam, and the third A is what's the word?
Nachon. It's like it says firmly established, like but it's not Kayam. It's less. It's a lesser quality. This is the exact point that he's making here. And he says, and the vessels are not on the same level and same degree of Kayam as he and his name. And this is because he and his name possess these qualities intrinsically. Because obviously he is Atzmos. His name is the light that's coming off of Atzmos, and that's just a reflection of him. It's just a pass-through. So obviously they exist because that's Hashem. So what's up with the vessels? He says, therefore, when it comes to the vessels, the term is used nachon, which implies being fit, ready, and established. It has the potential to be united in the same way that the light is. It has the potential to be united in the same way. When the vessels are in that state, meaning when they are nullified to the light and long for it, for the word in Hebrew, keli, which is a vessel, shares the root with hilayon, which means longing. And therefore, they are united with the light. And at that time, the unity within the light is also found in the vessel. That's really the point that he's trying to make here. You have Hashem. You have his name. You know, we also say this all the time, that in the end, Hashem will be one and his name will be one. Like, so, and we have the vessels. And the vessels right now, unless we have Kilayon, close on Nefesh, we're not unified with Hashem. There's still a separation. It means to like go out of yourself. A yearning. It means yearning to the point of expiry, like close on Nefesh. Like close on Nefesh, like a yearning to leave your body. You yearn for Hashem so much that your soul could leave the body. That's a level of Yehudis Hashem that your soul just can't, like it wants to leave the vessel. And that's like it says in the Pirkei Avos, against your will you live, and against your will you die. Against your will you live, because your soul doesn't want to be in this body. But against your soul you die, because the soul knows that when it's in the body, that's when it's the closest to Hashem.
I thought it's against your will that you are born, and then against your will that you die. Like not like right now, all the years that we're living, like.
Okay, I'm bad at quoting. I'm bad at quoting. Against your will you're born. That's also because the soul doesn't want to come down into this world. But it's also, it doesn't want to come down into this world because it doesn't want to live in this world. It wants to be connected to Hashem. It wants to have close nefesh. It wants to just leave the body and be connected to Hashem. It doesn't want to be in this world. However, it wants to be in this world because what it can accomplish in this world by being in a vessel and having to fight through the klipa in order to reveal the unity of Hashem, that gives it permanence. And that's what enables it to be like a reflection of Hashem's unity in this world. That's like the whole point. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the point of the whole story is the vessel. Because what does Hashem just need to shine his light out for? He doesn't need to just shine out his light. Like okay, great. He wants to have a relationship with the world. And the relationship with the world is through the vessel. And it has to be through the vessel because otherwise we wouldn't exist. If it was only light, then we would just be part of the light. So we have to be in a vessel in order to think we're independent and separate and have free choice to connect with the light. When we make that choice to connect with the light, and we want to recognize that the vessel is God, and I'm just here to recognize in my consciousness that I am just a reflection of Hashem in this body. There is no separation. The separation, I mean, yes, there is separation, but the separation, I can also see that the separation is just a function of my own consciousness. Okay, now I want to just break into a different idea here about Amalek and his throne and what this means. And so it's coming up on Parshas V'Shalach. And this is talking about Amalek, right? At the end of Parshas Beshalach, he talks about Amalek. And the very last verse says, Kiyan al Kes Ka, Milchama Lahavaya, Amalek Midor Vidor. Kiyad, for the hand, is on the throne of God. Al Kes Ka, Hashem maintains a war against Amalek from generation to generation. This is the last pasuk of Parshas Beshalach, when right after he holds up his hands to fight Amalek, and after the sea splits or whatever in there. Okay, so the Rashi says here, what does it mean? There is a hand on the throne. What does it mean? What does that mean when you have a hand on the throne? He puts up his hand to swear. When we swear, we put our hand on the Torah, right? Because it's something holier than us. But when Hashem swears, he puts his hand on his throne. His throne is actually lower than Hashem. Why lower? Because when we swear, we want to connect to Hashem. And when Hashem swears, he wants to connect to us. Again, this whole thing is about relationship. Hashem is creating this whole story because he needs us, he wants us. We as the Kalim need to come to the point where we recognize we in darkness have essential existence because we have the ability to connect to the light with 100% consciousness. We could stay disconnected in a vessel, but and that's an option. But we have the ability to connect to the light through the vessel, and therefore it becomes enduring forever. So he says here, for his hand is on the throne. And it says in the Rashi, the hand of the Holy One, blessed be he, is raised to swear by his throne that there will be a war and hatred on his part against Amalek eternally. Wow. Think about this. Hashem is swearing to us, I will hate Amalek forever. Now, this is so interesting. So let's figure out what this means, okay? And so Hashem is literally swearing to destroy Amalek. And he says, and what is the meaning of case? Because how do you say throne? Kisei, with an olive, right? So it's just in the Torah, it just says ha samach. There's no olive. There's no olive. So the Rashi asks, what's the meaning of case without the olive? It doesn't say kisei as properly spelled. And also, why does it say ka? Why doesn't it say all of Hashem's name? It just says Yud K, Yud Hey, Yud and Hey. It's divided in half. And the implication of these two shortened words is as follows. The Holy One, blessed be he, swore that his name is not whole, nor is his throne whole, until the name of Amalek will be completely eradicated.
Wow.
What's the point in creating Amalek?
Well, should I answer your question, or should we just keep going? No, because we're gonna get to this, but I guess I'll just give you. Let me just put it in context of this whole thing that we're talking about. And I just want to say one more thing that this is what it says here. There is a source that explains that his throne is established. Kisei Nachon alludes to the Jewish souls. Okay. The story, Kisei Nachon. We said Hu Kayam, the Shemo Kayam, the Kisei Nachon. We are Kisei. We are Kisei. Oh. And we are only Nachon when we have connected the Aleph to the case and the Yud K to the Vav K. And once we do that, so Amalek is gone.
So there's two different cases. He said how there's Kisei that Hashem swears on it, and there's case that it says. There's two different.
There's case. Kisei. Okay, so he's saying what Rashi's saying here is, and this I learned this from a mimer from the Rebbe, but it's coming from this Rashi. The Torah says that Hashem is swearing on his throne, and case is just chasamach, chopped olive, and Yud K, chopped Vav K. And that's what the Rashi is saying. Hashem chopped his name in half, swore that his name will be separated, and his throne will be incomplete. We are his throne. And he swore on us that until Hashem is one, meaning we all believe that the vessel can be a reflection of the full-on unity of Hashem, until we as Jewish people can really be in the unity. Hashem is putting himself at risk. He is compromising himself for us and swearing that Amalek, he won't let Amalek win until we make the case whole and the Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei whole. He's waiting for us to do this work. And he swore he won't forget us while we're in the process of history getting to the place where we made Kisei and Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. That's what he's waiting for. And he swore on us, on his throne, on his relationship with the Jewish people, that I will keep you going until you finish this work. I mean, that's how much he loves us, values us, like he is waiting for us to make him whole.
So that's the Tsar Shekhinah. That's part of the Tsar Shekhinah.
That's the Tsar of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is in exile. Hashem put himself in exile until we get to the point where our consciousness is so that there's oneness. We live in oneness. We experience oneness. We don't say Hamas is not God. Hamas is a reflection of God because everything is a reflection of God. So why is Hamas here? Because we are in this final battle of Amalek. Because inside each and every one of us, what is Amalek? Amalek is Malika. You know, Malika is one of the ways that the Kohanim would do a sacrifice on a bird. And they hit them in the nape of the neck from behind. They severed the head from the heart.
With their fingernail.
With their fingernail. The severing of the head from the heart is the severing of the panemius from the acharayim, from the internal understanding of Hashem, from the external, from the Yud-Kei and the Vav-Kei. What is Yud-Kei? Yud-Kei is our mind, our soul, it's our higher self. And Vav-Kei is our heart and our body and our actions in this world. When our heart and our mind, when our soul and our mind are separated from our heart and our body, we are not whole. The Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei is not whole. And this is what Hashem did. He separated the Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei because the whole purpose of creation of reality, this whole story, is so that we in this Jewish body can stand up and say, I want to reunite Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. I want to attach the Aleph, which represents the revealed aspects of God, with the case, which is the concealed aspects of God. And how am I going to do that? I have to think, where in myself am I making a Malika between my head and my heart? It's happening in every one of us, ladies. Like, let's not fool ourselves. We are, and if we don't think that we're in a Malika, then teach somebody else, because we're all united and we're all one. And this is the story. This is the story. Where in our lives? Yeah.
I'm sure I think like what does it actually mean to like split up Hashem's name? Like Hashem has the Shema. What does it mean? Like his name is his name. What's his name? What does it mean to split up? Okay, so you can write your pen, you can write.
What does it mean?
What does it mean that his name is split up?
It means that we live in a physical reality where Hashem is not present. He is not revealing his.
Hashem is present in everything.
I know, but is the world living like Hashem is present in everything? Okay, but that's the fact that the world is not living in a unified reality means Hashem's name is split. Period. End of story. Until every single one of us in our consciousness, in ourselves, in all of our deficiencies, have reunited ourselves with our heart and our behavior to be in alignment with our highest self, we are split. We are not whole. It's just a fact. I mean, we can delude ourselves into thinking we're holy people and I live in Tzfat and I'm, okay, so there's a part of us that is, there really is a part of us that is, but there's also parts of us that are living in trauma and parts of us that are living in separated consciousness and parts of us that are still little children dealing with things that happen to us with their parents or but there's parts of us that are not healed.
We can, for sure, we're not whole. How can we say that Hashem is not whole?
In our respect, he's holding back from us. We can't receive them. He is. He's
Wait, let's have one conversation here.
It doesn't have, it means we can't receive these.
We are a reflection of God in the world. We are a reflection of God in the world. That's why teshuvah is tashuv-kei, because when we go against Hashem, we take the energy, this makif energy that we were talking about, and we direct it to the dark side. That's what we do. We're part of the story. We're not like we are connected to Hashem intrinsically. We're his firstborn child. We are totally connected to Hashem. When we do things against Hashem's will, we take the energy of the hay. Hashem creates the world with these energies, and we are connected to it. So when we take and divert the energy away from Hashem, it affects him. That's the Shekhinah in exile. That's the Shekhinah in exile. It's connected. What is the Shekhinah? The Shekhinah is the lower hay of Hashem's name.
It's not because we're doing something to him. It's because he can't reveal himself completely. He's broken because he can't. We're not able to receive. We're broken. We can't receive his fullness, which he is always. He's in exile, but he's still
correct. Exactly. So how do we get to a place? And this is Geula. Geula is when we reflect the unity of Hashem. That's when we reflect the unity of Hashem. Why? Because we are so powerful. We have the capability to do that. Each and every one of us can be completely whole human beings. We can. I mean, with Hashem's help, obviously we can't. It's a partnership. You know, that it's a marriage. It's a connect. That's what it says. When Geula comes, we're finally going to have the Yichud. We're finally going to have that. But in the meantime, we're betrothed to Hashem. Hashem is part of it, but we're also part of it. We can't just sit around waiting for Hashem to bring Geula. It doesn't work that way because we are intrinsically connected to the whole process.
Could it be that the same love and intensity that you're learning Torah and davening to do? I mean, that for me is where I feel inside of me.
Yes.
I feel like one is superior longing and one is sort of the hidden longing. And if I can do that with the same passion and love and longing, that yes, this is part of the world that needs to be the elevated part, right? Like, I mean, for me, that was really, really hard to go from wow to 100%. And then you see the kitchen. So it's hard to feel like I need to practice saying, yeah, this is a part of the elevation. The elevation is really great. You know, that's where you get your food from. And then how do you use that? By doing the dishes at the same time, that's exactly right. So that's how it works for me. Sometimes I feel like, what is hard for me? Where is my go-to part? But I know that's the part of me, you know, the elevation.
That's exactly right. It's in our thought, speech, and action. In our thought, speech, and action, that is where we reveal this. We have the ability to reveal this higher. We can make the revelation, we can make the unification of Hashem and His name. Yes. And what we do physically, in the physical world, even standing there, you know, when you're davening, if you're standing and you're like, I'm in my body, my body is a physical manifestation, and I'm taking all of that and I'm bringing it into my physical being. That's also making a unification with this world. It's not like I'm out there in my head, my heart davening out there. No, it's in here. It's right now. It's here. This is no different from anything else because I revealed God in this place.
Did you make this separation if you're not there?
Exactly. That's exactly the whole point. We make separations all the time. And I guess the purpose of this mimer and the purpose of this whole thing is just to be aware. We have so much power to make the connection. We can make the unification. It's up to us. We can also make the separation and not even realize that you could say, I'm just going to be in a fight with my husband today because he did this and this is our pattern and we spin out into these ways. But you know what, when I'm doing that, I'm making a separation in Hashem's name, it makes you stand up and be like, well, I better get my act together. Like, this is just my ego going nuts. And this is the pattern that I always have with my husband. And he always does this and I always do that. And we always spin out into these places and it takes a couple days to get back together. And it's like, but when you know this and you're like, but in the separated moments, I'm making a separation in Hashem. Like, that's how important I am. That's how important my marriage is. That's how important every relationship with every Jew. If I'm not whole with them, Hashem's separated. That just shows on how important each and every one of our thoughts, speech, and action is at every moment. It's not to say you're bad. This has nothing to do with, this is to say, wait, look at your power. Look at your power at every moment. You can either separate Hashem, or you can bring him back together. And when you bring Hashem back together, you are destroying Amalek, because Amalek makes the separation. So when you make the connection, you're bringing Hashem back together. And wait, I just want to make one more point. And when you do it with Mesiras Nefesh, because this is the whole thing about Amalek. Amalek just is like, I don't care. I don't care if it's logical that whatever I learned should go into my heart. I don't care. I'm gonna cut that off. So when we go the opposite way and we say, I'm gonna do this for Hashem, even though I don't want to bittle myself to my husband right now, and it's so hard for me, I just want to go to bed and roll over and whatever it is, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna go out of my comfort zone right now, because this is what is gonna destroy Amalek. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And beautify Hashem.
Yes, and obviously, exactly. Tisei, not whole, and the whole thing is whole, it's full, it's enduring, and it's because we become a keli in that moment, so that we become enduring and whole forever, because we're holding the full Yud Kei Vav Kei in ourselves. And that's why I'm saying it's not, this is very practical. But in order for it to become so practical, we kind of have to understand the system. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
You can read also Derek Hashem in a different way, you know.
It's not either or. I'm not saying that it. No, there's no either or. There's one God.
I have to know all the
you don't have to know anything. Yes, you know what you do have to know? You have to know that what it means to be a Jew is that you have a choice to reveal the source of your keli or not. That's it. I don't care. You can learn it from wherever you want to learn it from. It doesn't make any difference. The point is, whether you are recognizing that in any moment you have a choice to unify your keli, that's your power as a Jew. That's all you need to know. I don't care how you learn it. It doesn't make a difference. It's just, this is the systematic way that it's laid out for me. And this is how I learn, and this is how it speaks to me. But it doesn't tell you have to learn it this way or that way. And do we have to know about the kelim of Atzilus? No, we could put that away for now. But the point is that we have to understand there's a process to how this whole thing comes down, because it comes down into every single detail. It's not that there's the kelim of Atzilus out there and I don't need to know about that because it's irrelevant to me. Lahafeh, it's completely a part of me. The kelim of Atzilus come down into more and more contracted energies, but I'm united with the kelim of Atzilus. That's part of me now, right now. It's not separate. So yes, we don't have to think about it, and we don't have to say I need to understand it in my day-to-day understanding of when I'm standing here holding Hashem, but we can't say it's not relevant because it's part of the whole unity.
It's relevant. It's part of the whole unity. Also, Shatnez. There's a lot of things we don't understand that it's part of.
I know, but when you learn about Shatnez. But when you learn about, okay, yes, fine, finished. Yeah. Question.
I've had situations in people in mind, whatever, have contacted me, and they're in such distress, they don't even believe in shiurim anymore, they have to feel whatever. And every time the universal thing seems to be, they're heavy on the news. Would you say that the news disconnects us from the reality? Interesting.
What do you think?
Yeah, I see it.
The news is a huge knife. It's a huge knife. It just comes around snipping. It's like, oh, there's a little bitty Yud Kei Vav Kei. Let me just cut that right there. You know, there's like connection between the head and the heart. Snap. You know, it's like
News Amalek.
News Amalek. Look. I don't want to say anything. I'm just saying it's not about the pratim, and it's also about the pratim. It's like wherever you want to go with it. If you want to go with the pratim, go with the pratim. If you don't want the details. If you want to go with the details of how the vessels align with the lights in Atzilus, and okay, that's one. But to know that how the vessels and the lights align in Atzilus affects the spiritual. It affects the descent of Hashem's energy into this world. That's all you have to know.
How does knowing that help us to perform the next one?
Because I think when you realize every act that we do has a consequence all the way up to Hashem, and we understand it in that kind of a way, and it's not just I'm doing the mitzvahs because Hashem said so. That's also critical. But knowing that there's an entire ecosystem, a spiritual ecosystem, and what every little thing that I do has an effect, and you know the effect because you understand on some very abstract level that it is effective, it has more power on a certain level than just saying, yes, Hashem says I have to do this mitzvah, I'm going to do this mitzvah. It minimizes, when you know about it, it makes you more powerful. It makes you more, you know more. It affects more of you, as opposed to saying, like, my mother told me to light candles, so I'm going to light candles. That doesn't take over my whole being. It doesn't take over my intellect. It didn't take over all my thought processes and trying to understand Hashem. Okay, I'm going to light the candles. Beautiful. No one's saying not. It's not, that's what I'm saying. It's not either or. It's just that you can, like anything in this world, you can become an expert in God. It's like, to the extent that we can. You know, you want to be a Bucky in kitchen sciences, you could become the greatest chef ever. You know, and yeah, there's some people just Moroccan mamas. You know, they just go in, they have it in their DNA, they can just do it. But if you want to understand the science of how does the baking powder react with the food, and then somehow it's just, okay, like maybe you're gonna make a better cake. I don't know, but you're more invested on some level because your whole mind is trying to figure out like this and that and and with the it's a stupid example, but I'm just saying like how much of you are invested in like I love cooking, and I don't have like any kind of cooking like expertise or whatever. But when I cook from my heart, you know. But I don't have any head in my cooking. I'm just like, oh, this looks good and that looks good. So you can't say that all of me is invested in the cooking because there's my head that's not invested in the cooking. It's a stupid example, but you kind of maybe get what I'm saying. Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
The take-home thing that I get from all four is like that our technique is to participate in this process of bringing Mashiach, and by unifying Hashem's name and the kiseh, like those two things. And how do we do it? By unify this, like the opposite of the Cohen did of separating. So we're unifying our heart and our mind, and the opposite is the news cutting. We're like the news cutting, like she said, like they're postponing our process, or they're making it much harder. But our whole process, our whole purpose is to unify those. And we take it into our personal life of the heart, the mind, doing the best we can, be good people, be conducting ourselves with love and compassion toward others, to unify Hashem.
Exactly. A++++.
Thank you so much.
Bravo.
You're doing so much effort.
I get a lot of extra.
Lots of fire. Yeah, you did. That was the trick. That was the trick. Bye, everybody.